Great. Well, Adam, first of all, thank you very much for having me as part of your program today. I'm excited to be here and to be able to talk about the Individualized Funding Resource Centre and what we do to support people with disabilities to be able to access individualized funding. So I have a PowerPoint presentation, so I'm going to turn that on now and share my screen. I have not done a lot of PowerPoint, so please forgive me if it doesn't work completely well at the beginning, but it should. All right, and then voila. Adam, are we up and running with the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. So, I'm Paul Gauthier, and I'm the Executive Director at the Individualized Funding Resource Centre, and I'm one of the founders of the Choices and Support for Independent Living, which is also more known as the Cecil program, which provides individualized funding for people with disabilities in the province of British Columbia. So, as somebody with a disability myself, I happen to have cerebral palsy. This program has made a significant difference in my life. And now there's over 1,300 people with disabilities that are on the Cecil program. So I look forward to talking more about that today. I'm also on the executive of the Association of Cecil Employers. And I'm and then I helped found the Individualized Funding Resource Centre in 2014. And I'm happen to be also a Paralympic athlete and competing in the sport of bocce ball. I've had a wonderful career in sport. And my big year was in 2004, going to Athens, Greece, where I won a gold medal for Canada and a bronze. So that was the gold medal in the individual competition and bronze in the pair division. So I've had a chance to see the world, and also got a chance to really see how services are operated for people with disabilities around the world. So let me talk a little bit more about the Individualized Funding Resource Centre. We really help people access individualized funding programs in BC. And we're very much committed to supporting individuals to fully participate in society and in all aspects of community. And we really have a great staff of individuals that really team up to help people come up with plans to achieve their goals. And the greatest thing about individualized funding is that the goals can be as grand as, working and volunteering, or just a goal of being able to access the community for social, or just being able to go out and about. And I think the I believe the Cecil program is definitely a great tool to help people be able to do that. I really refer to the Cecil program as a BC's best kept secret. And it really is. The Cecil program was established in 1994. And a lot of people today that may not have heard of the Cecil program will be going, why did I not know about this before? But in 1994, it was really people with disabilities that were in the forefront to make sure that there was a program available that allowed people to have access to more control over their supports. And, the individualized funding aspect basically provides the dollars to you to be able to hire your own caregivers. This is an attendance service model of support. So, how is it different from using kind of the traditional agency system or the traditional home support system? So you still have to access eligibility through your health authority. So as many of you know, there's 5 health authorities in this province, and you work through your case manager to apply for your support hours. But once you've been approved for your support hours, you are given the choice to go through the traditional home support route, where the health authority delivers your supports and schedules home support workers to come to your home at usually specific specific times of the day. Where the Cecil program, what's fantastic about it is that the funds come directly to you, and it enables you to become the employer and be able to schedule staff based on what your needs are of the day. So it has a lot more flexibility, and you have a lot more choice. So the Individualized Funding Resource Centre was really formed because there was many people that were Cecil employers, that became Cecil employers, that were struggling on the program, either because it was the issue around kind of looking at how to navigate the program, because sometimes it can be pretty daunting to all of a sudden go from being on home support where everything was pretty much done for you, and you didn't really have much say, to all of a sudden being an employer where you have total control of everything. And in that case, really, the whole business component, and it really is like operating a small business. And there just wasn't enough resources out there to help people be able to find support workers. So we were looking to try to be able to overcome many of these challenges for Cecil employers, and trying to be able to put a society in place that provided good information and resources. The benefit of the Cecil program, I mean, there's so many benefits, and if we had other Cecil employers talk today, they would talk about so many of their own personal circumstances. But they generally, what we find is that people refer to the Cecil program as kind of night and day compared to traditional home support. They love the increased freedom. You're able to design your own job description based on the activities and priorities and your values. You're able to provide have access to personal care that you choose, and have access to the workers that you choose. The fact that you're able to find somebody that has the personality that you're looking for, and have the skills to be able to do the routines that you want them to be able to do. I always say that, who's going to spend the money the best is you, really, right? Because you're going to be able to hire the person that you're particularly needing and wanting to do the particular tasks, and have the highest skills based on what your needs are. And the Cecil employers really do find that there's a sense of freedom and control, compared to traditional home support. So there are cons, of course, to the program. There's still limitations that exist, that you have to consider before signing on to the Cecil program. Cecil operates under pretty much the same rules as standard home support. There are some people that feel that they don't get enough home support hours for their needs, which is the case, I think, either being on the Cecil program or in traditional home support. And there's a demand of your time and energy to make sure that you as the employer are managing your systems the way that you need to, both in a business capacity and, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's really very much like running a small business. But what I find, so it's a negative in that, the first 3 to 6 months, you have to deal with all aspects of getting it all up and running. And, there's, making sure that you have the right payroll systems in place, going through the recruiting, having some of the ups and downs of finding the wrong caregiver at first. But what we've been hearing, both from my own self personally, and for most people on the Cecil program, is that after you get past that 3 to 6 months, things start to roll. And yes, there's hiccups from time to time, with needing to switch over staff or, challenges coming up. And we'll talk a little bit more about that afterwards. So, to try to determine if you would be eligible for the program, you need to be an adult, 19 years or older, and need physical personal support. So needing basically daily hours of support. You need to have a case manager assess your needs, and you must be eligible for home support through the health authority. And you must be able to show that you have the ability to manage your own supports, and that you have a plan and can come up with a plan to work for you. You need to request a Cecil application package from the case manager. And usually the best way to do that is writing a letter to your case manager explaining why you would want to be on the Cecil program. You don't need to go into major details in regards to all the troubles that you've perhaps have had around a traditional home support. I would keep it as a positive letter that really states what is it that you would like to do to be, to be on the program and what experience that you might have. And if you've been having traditional home support, you could be using the experience of the fact that you've probably been training a lot of caregivers over the period of time of traditional home support, because a lot of people tell us there's a lot of turnovers. So that is a good piece of experience of being able to be successful on the program, because you will have to train your own support staff. So there's 2 phases to the program. And some people, they call it a 3 phases, but there's phase 1 of the program where you're the person who manages everything. So you're the Cecil employer. So you're responsible for the funding and supports. You're responsible for hiring a bookkeeper if you don't have the skills yourself. Myself personally, I could do my own payroll, but it's so much easier to find someone else to be able to do that and just take that piece of work off of your plate, so that I can carry on with other aspects of my life. You have to produce monthly financial reports. And again, that's something you could get a payroll person to do for you. But it's your responsibility to make sure that it is submitted to the health authorities. Each month's report is, you have about 45 days to get it in. And that's a really important piece of being an employer. There is a phase 2 to the program where people can choose to have someone be able, through a client support group, because there are some people that are not always able to manage their supports on their own. And that maybe it's due to energy, maybe it's due to just being able to handle it all. So a client support group is an option. And a client support group is like developing a small society and you would have 5 board members, which can be made up of friends and family and just anybody that supports you in general. And it is a nonprofit society that would operate your Cecil funds. And you would also be on that board of directors as well. But in the recent years, what I found, if there is, if you're not able to handle it all on your own, the other option is around the representation agreement. And by having a formal representative involved, you can actually have the representative be the main person to support you on the Cecil program. So representation agreements are fantastic in general, because even for myself, I have a representation agreement in place. And if one day I'm not able to operate my Cecil program, either because I ended up in hospital or something has happened to me where I just can't handle it on my own anymore, my representative can continue to operate the Cecil program for me. And then that way I end up not losing any consistency in my supports or care. And if I end up coming back out of hospital and still needing help with signing checks and those kinds of things, the representation agreement can kick into place. And for those that may just not have all the abilities and stuff, the representation agreement is just another option so that you could still go on to the Cecil program. In my mind personally, I think that, there's always ways to be able to make individualized funding work by just coming up with different ways to be able to operate it. So, and there's also just some information around the public guardianship and trustees. So there are other components to it, but I would say that the representation agreement is another second option if you yourself don't feel comfortable to handle all aspects of being an employer. So the IFRC team, the individualized funding team here, I mentioned I'm the executive director. Chris Hoffley, I just want to really mention him because him and I teamed up in developing the IFRC, and he's a founding board member, and he's also our director of operations. And he brings so much wisdom and strength to our team with his knowledge in regards to helping people develop support plans, and his ability to problem solve is incredible. And he really leads our team of navigators. We have a team of navigators that support individuals on the program. We really have an inclusive environment in that many of our members live with experience of being on the Cecil program. We have an HR team that very much focuses on the whole recruitment of staff and supporting Cecil employers on recruiting. We also have a client payroll department that just focuses on assisting people be able to manage their payroll each pay period. It's twice a month payroll. These are services that are possible to be funded through your Cecil funding. So you don't have to use your own personal funds for this. This is something that is expected to be an expense that you can use through your Cecil funding. So getting access to some assistance around recruiting and being able to access payroll are both services that are well worth looking at through our organization. We have a website which has really a full array of information. I was working originally with the Spinal Cord Injury BC. Back then it was the BC Paraplegia Association. And we developed a Cecil education modules. And those Cecil education modules are on our website, as well as the Spinal Cord Injuries website. But we also created some videos, and we teamed up to do that. And so we have a whole section of videos about applying for the Cecil program, things you need to think about, how to go about different aspects, and just generally how to be a good employer. We kind of all have different ideas and thoughts on how to be a good employer. This kind of gives us reminders, and it kind of goes through the employment standards components and things like that too. So the IFRC is here to help people through the application process. So supporting people to even start off with thinking about the basics, because even before applying for the Cecil program, it is wise to start thinking about what does your 24-hour day look like, in regards to your physical needs. Sometimes what ends up happening is that we go applying and don't think about it, and then the case manager doesn't get a full picture of what all your needs are. But actually preparing in advance and looking at, okay, my morning routine. What is my morning routine? How long does it take me to transfer from my bed to my wheelchair? How long does it take? Personally, I need someone to feed me, so I need to be able to talk about, being fed and how long does it take me to be fed, going to the washroom. And, one of the interesting things I think about is that, a case manager would ask me, how many times a day do I go to the washroom? I think the first few times I had an assessment done, I think I said maybe 3 times or something. But when I actually completed the full supported lifestyle plan, I realized that I went about 8 times in a day. And so having an accurate understanding of what all your needs are, and not just from what your current caregivers do, but perhaps what are some of the unpaid supports that you're getting that are someone's assisting with your physical needs as well. So we really kind of go through and help you develop that plan and look at it and ask you questions, and this helps you be able to prepare to meet with a case manager and to be able to talk openly about what your physical needs are. We also help people prepare a budget and really plan for that. So once you end up getting X number of hours per day on the Cecil program, then it's being creative about what to do with those dollars. Do we have enough money to do a live-in position? Do you need to have someone to be able to do a nighttime attendant? How can we make the best use of the dollars to be able to pay a caregiver what they're worth, at the same time meet your physical needs? So we really plan for success around budgeting. And then there's education. And we provide as much information as we can. And I'm going to go through a little bit more of that in a minute. But, my famous saying is information is power. And it truly is. And you being here and listening to this today is another aspect of giving you power, because you will know more about the application process, I hope, and just thinking through your options about, is the Cecil program right for me or not? We also help people with appeals and mediation. And this is in relation to that there's some people that just don't feel they're getting enough home support hours, for example, or maybe they were denied the Cecil program. There's an appeal process, and all health authorities are happy to let you know that there is an appeal process, because that is part of our system. And the Individualized Funding Resource Centers, we want to be able to guide you through that process and be able to help you look at all aspects of it, so that you're prepared and that you can put forward a strong, meaningful appeal document. Some of it can be done verbally, but a lot of times it needs to be done in writing. And I know physically for me, it is challenging to write things down. So my team helps us and helps Cecil employers or people with disabilities go through that appeal process and provide good information to help be able to facilitate that process. And what's great about it is the health authority respects that. The health authority sees the need for individuals to have support, and Ifrc does that. So how can the Ifrc help you be a successful employer? So we have a high level of experience and knowledge in the program. Again, mentioning that many of us had the lived experience, including myself and Chris Hoffley, and we have Sarah Lapp, who also lives in Kelowna, and so we're all across the province and provide support across the province. We provide confidential support and helping you deal with the complexity of a challenge. We help with staff management, and we help with employment legislation as well, and education around that. So when it comes to one-on-one support and problem solving, there will be challenges of trying to work things out with health authorities. And we believe in a cooperative approach to try to figure out how we can make things work better. And we kind of work through that problem solving aspect. When it comes to employment standards, just knowing what are the rules around employment standards. What is the minimum call out, for example? Can I have my caregiver only come for 1 hour? Or does it have to be a minimum of 2 hours for them to come? what are the rules around, that I may need a caregiver to be with me for a 10-hour day? What are some of the options so that someone could work a 10-hour day? And there's rules with employment standards that allow you to be able to do that. And just dealing with complex staff issues. When we talk about staff issues, there'll be times where there'll be misunderstandings between you and your support person. And we try to come up with techniques and to work with you to be able to solve those issues. And most times you'll be able to do that on your own. And other times you may just want a little extra pair of hands to make it easier to be able to get through it, with a goal to try to solve the problem, right? And then if you're not able to solve the problem and that you need to terminate the position, we're there to help you with that termination and make sure that you're following all the employment standards legislation around doing that. WorkSafe BC is another area of making sure that your home is safe for the employee, and that you have all the policies and stuff in place to be able to offer a safe working environment. Education and information, we do one-on-one peer group, one-on-one sessions. We also do group sessions as well. We know lots about what's allowed within the Cecil policies. So in relation to guidelines, we're able to kind of walk you through the Cecil guidelines and what the rules are around expenses. And then we just try to do a fair bit of education around what is the employer's responsibility. And we do that by actually talking about it, but we also can help you with packages. And within the package, it can provide you information about maybe like having an employer-employee contract agreement, so that you have an agreement in place between you and your employee. And having policies and procedures in place. Like I said at the beginning, it is like running a small business. You don't have to have everything in place right away. It's something that you can grow with, right? So even if you're a Cecil employer right now and you're kind of going, boy, I don't have contracts in place or those kinds of things, you can come to the Ifrc and look at our services and what we have available to help you with that. I talked earlier a little bit about some of our human resources component. So I mentioned that we have a full payroll cycle. We help with making sure that your monthly financial statements are submitted to the health authority each month. You're paying the employees. Most people do semi-monthly payroll, which means that they pay somebody from the 1st to the 15th and the 16th to the end of the month. And we're able to help you with that and provide the necessary pay stubs and then all the year-end components to it, T4 slips at the end of the year. So I think I mention this a lot because it's just something that I think takes that pressure off you, that you don't have to be a numbers person to be successful on the Cecil program. You just need to be able to be willing, to be able to have structures in place and then be able to use the support system of a payroll person to handle the number side for you. Ultimately, you're still responsible as the employer, but the payroll person brings their expertise and really helps you be able to manage that component. And then there's recruitment, and that, we provide recruitment facilitation services and the full gamut of HR support as well as part of our services. And that's really the job advertising, doing some pre-screens, be able to give you access to really good applicants and their resumes based on what you're looking for in a person. And there's a lot of discussions that people have around, what kind of caregivers are we looking for? Some people are looking for someone with a lot of experience that have education. Some people are saying, look, I can train on the physical personal care parts, but I can't train them on having a good personality. So a personality is most important to me. and then I can do the training. So we kind of work with individuals based on what they're looking for. And so we do have a database. It's about 160 people throughout the province that are currently looking for work. So we keep that database going and we try to keep it as active as possible. And we go to that database first to see if we have anyone that matches that profile that you're looking for. Excuse me. If indeed we do not have somebody, that's when we kind of start putting the ads out and starting the process and things. And then what we try to do is bring you 4 or 5 possible applicants, and if not, then we just keep on pounding the pavement. And I think you need to, I think what we like people to remember is that, you know, we become another pair of hands of support. So we're not the ones that will make the final decisions. You're the one that's going to make the final decisions. At the end of the day, you're the one that needs the person to be working for you. But we're here to be able to lend you another pair of hands to be able to make it happen. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a little sip of water. I really like this photo, and it's really all about as active as you want, right? And the quality of life. And I think, excuse me, really the Cecil program does allow you to have a schedule that works for you and have the independence. And right now we're kind of all saying, I remember the days of the social outings and being active and stuff, right? Everything's a bit different at the moment, but we will get back to some normalcy eventually, hopefully sooner than later. But to say that, you know, full participation is something that I know that the Cecil program has done for so many people in this province, and the ability to go to work, go to school, being involved in social activities, traveling. I know personally I would not have been able to be a Paralympic athlete if it wasn't for the sport, if it wasn't for the Cecil program. You know, I was able to hire a caregiver that had that physical ability to be able to help me with my care, but also I was able to find that person that had the sport mind and was interested in sport. And together we were able to team up. And as I mentioned in the beginning, you know, was able to do very well in the sport of bocce. But, traveling, volunteerism, you know, it really does allow us to be able to participate like anybody else and to do what we would want to do with some of the supports. Do we get enough home support hours to be able to do that? Not necessarily, right? You know, and that's something I know different organizations and us continue to work with government to look at, you know, making sure that the support systems are improved. And we're going to continue to work to try to improve home support in British Columbia. Also wanted to mention that, you know, there's a Cecil program through the Ministry of Health authorities, but then there's also the Ifrc also provides custom support and services for people that receive funding through CLBC. And I really wanted to mention this because I think that, you know, we've been doing this for the last couple of years, but not a lot of people know about us doing this. And this allows individuals and their families to really have access to a service that we believe is as flexible as the family is looking for. And so if you receive funding through community living, we really believe in choice, autonomy, really believe in having the flexibility and providing as much support where we could be involved as an agency handling everything, or if you just wanted some support in finding caregivers and using the host agency component. So, you know, I've listed on the side here the different CLBC supports that we provide. and open to having any discussions around that. And I should say that, what's really important here is that we understand that there's times quite often where both health and CLBC provide funds depending on the person's disability. So, and that's something we're happy to help work and understand as well. Excuse me. We also have the Pathways to Independence. We've been really excited about this, and that in 2018 we teamed up with Technology for Living. For those that know Ruth Marizetti, she's an amazing executive director who really understands the power of peer. And both organizations feel that peer-led, peer-driven type work is a real success. We have 10 Zoom meetings each year, and we bring together people from across the province, people with disabilities, and or their representative. And we try to keep it enclosed, actually, to be people with disabilities or their representatives or a family member that's supporting them. And we do that because we really want to be able to have open, free discussions about what's happening in the way of independent living for them. So it's a bit of a closed group, but all people with disabilities in this province are welcome to be part of this. And we talk about, quite often it's a lot around the Cecil program. The Cecil, the Association of Cecil Employers quite often provide regular updates about what is happening with the Cecil program and what policy changes they're working on with government. And anytime there's new information about what's happening in the Cecil program, the Pathways to Independence provide that information. We talk about assistive technology. We talk about all kinds of resource networks. And what's great about it is that peers themselves talk about what's happening in the community. And we have an open discussion at different points during the meeting. But at the same time, we also are engaged in that we end up bringing on guest speakers that are able to talk about different topics. So we're planning, for example, in the future to have somebody around employment standards so that we can get some of our questions answered. Somebody from WorkSafe BC, and we've done some of those locally, but not on Zoom. So we're really excited to get those onto Zoom. In regards to what's coming up, we have a session coming up on Wednesday this week, on Wednesday the 27th, from 1:30 to 3:30, and we've got just for your information about the topics for this month is that we're going to be talking briefly about the Technology for Living Simon Cox Student Design Competition. There's some updates in regards to the Cecil contracts, and we'll have some open discussion. And the big discussion that we're going to have this month is around the pandemic and, of course, the vaccine. And things like, we're going to address things like, how can I be considered a priority? How to make it can it be a job requirement for our employees to actually have the vaccine? What do you do when your staff won't get a vaccine? These are real relevant situations that are going on right now with living in the community. And we're also looking at developing leadership groups. So Pathways have been meeting since 2019, and they really wanted to get involved in more things related to advocacy, and so there's some peer groups that we're looking to formulate as well to try and deal with, things like the client contributions or the need to be able to change the different time task analysis within the health authority, or how do we publicize the Cecil program more publicly, and maybe how do we talk to the politicians about how great the Cecil program is, and how do we get them to know about the fact that it shouldn't be such a secret. All right. IFRC also has the Right Fit, and the Right Fit is a partnership between the Individualized Funding Resource Centre and the Disability Alliance BC. And we also have a committee that has some amazing individuals that are from the City of Vancouver, Vancouver Coastal Health, Fraser Health, the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reductions, and BC Housing. And so what the Right Fit is it really works to connect wheelchair users with housing providers to be able to fill their vacancies. And, you know, as someone with a disability myself, the challenge when I was moving out of a group home setting was to actually find a wheelchair accessible subsidized place. And it was nearly impossible. So we really wanted to develop a place of a place of excellence when it comes to supporting individuals to be able to look for wheelchair accessible housing and to be able to provide providers information about individuals that are looking for housing as well. And it's not just about housing, by the way, because as you all know, housing is, you know, a big part of it. But if you have housing but don't have the appropriate home support, or you don't have access to the equipment and devices that you require, you know, an electric bed or a track ceiling lift in a timely manner, then moving into your own place is going to be challenging. So I could go on and on about the Right Fit. It is just an amazing program, but I wanted to touch upon it. Dalton Finley is our project manager, and you can see the phone number and email where you can get a hold of him if you are looking for housing. You know, it does take time, but it's worth contacting and being part of the Right Fit. So you know, there's so much to talk about in this area when it comes to Cecil and the different programs that we're involved in. This is my contact information. I know that there has been some chat that's been coming up, so let me just stop sharing for a second, and then let me see if I can see some of the chat. And Adam, if you don't mind, is there any questions that I should be aware of, Adam, that you could read for me? And then I'd be happy to talk about anything that may have come up in chat.
Okay, the chat does have quite a few questions.
Great.
Okay. Oh, wow. So who is eligible for the Cecil program? I think you answered that one, though. That was an early question.
Yep.
Are there programs that help those pay for physio?
Great question. You know, I'm not familiar with all the programs that particularly pay for the physio, but one of the things that, you know, physiotherapists can do is help you be able to come up with a program that can be done at home. If it's recommended by the physiotherapist, you know, your caregivers may be able to do that as part of being on the Cecil program as well. This varies depending on health authority and case managers' decisions. We're working hard for real consistency around what's allowed and not allowed when it comes to support systems. But there are quite a few case managers that understand the need for stretching programs and dealing with our disability to make it so that we don't need as much home support.
Okay. Do you have a spare pool of workers in case your regular caregiver is sick or unavailable?
Excellent question. You know, one of the things that IFRC does is works with individuals to come up with a game plan, first of all. there's that finding of your core staff first, right? And once you've got your core staff, really try to work with your core staff about their ability to be available for backup. But we also work towards having additional staff that are available. It's not as easy. I won't sugarcoat it. Backup staff is not the easiest thing to get when you don't have regular shifts available. So the more that you could bring somebody in, even just to do a few hours a week, you can develop that relationship with them, and that perhaps they could be the ones that are available for backup. Having said that, if we've got the ability, if we've got staff that are available to do backup, we definitely share that information. We look in our database. Ifrc doesn't do specifically emergency service, meaning that you call us today and I need someone tonight. Will we try? Chris Hoffley and the team, they try so hard to deal with all kinds of things that come our way. But the more we can plan for it, the better.
Okay. What requirements do healthcare workers need to be a Cecil employee?
Oh, another great question. So this can really vary. So first of all, the requirements are really about you as an individual. Once you are the employer, you get to decide to what level of requirements you expect. So you may be somebody who really wants somebody with full education and experience, and you may want somebody who has got a certificate as a personal care aide. That is your choice to be able to have that level. But you also have the choice to make a decision to not have somebody with that high of level. That if you are somebody who is able to train, as I said earlier, you could hire somebody else. And maybe, it's recommended that, that people do have some level of some kind of experience that connects you, but it is totally up to you to decide what level of support requirements that you would want.
Okay, I think those were the questions we had in chat.
Okay.
I was wondering about the peer support networking.
Great.
Yeah, that's for every person with a disability, and how many people usually join those things?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that. So Adam, we have, there's 400 people with disabilities or family that are members at this point that receive the regular emails out. But we get anywhere from 70 to 100 people that come out each month. It's been a real success, and I think it just always depends on what is the topic and is it something that they're interested in at this time or not. It's really nice because there's a real interactive component to it, where we actually we don't feel alone, and I like that, Adam. We don't, some of the questions that come out really kind of hit home to other individuals, and that's where that peer-to-peer is so important, because even as we were going through this pandemic, there were other people that were feeling isolated, and they got to speak about that, and we were able to talk about what we were doing to overcome it. Even around recruiting, some people were talking about how difficult it is to recruit during this time, and people were able to share their insights and their solutions, which was really awesome too, Adam.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah, maybe we should advertise that on the ConnecTogether as well.
Wonderful. And what I can do too there, Adam, is to include you in those email outs of what's coming up in topics and things, so that you could be able to let them know about it.
Yeah. Just send over the documentation and stuff as well, so that we can, have people join in.
I'll do that for sure.
Okay. Wheelchair affordable housing and accessible housing.
Yes.
Yeah, that was sort of interesting because I'm also, going through my education, and I had to work on a data set with affordable housing units across the city of Vancouver.
Right.
Yeah, and I was always wondering, it's like, which ones are, accessible to people with disabilities? And I was, always wondering about that, because I know sometimes data connected to people uh, that has connections to disabilities, it's not always well known. Um,
So let me tell you, Adam, that first of all, I think it'd be fantastic, once one of your sessions, if you're open to it, is to do something completely on the right fit, because I think we can kind of go into more detail. But I want to say that one of the things that we're doing in the Vancouver area, and sponsored by the city of Vancouver, is going through a checklist. We have an accessibility checklist, and it was originally developed in the city of Vancouver's Disability Advisory Committee. I happen to sit on the Disability Advisory Committee, and our committee was very involved in developing this checklist. And the Right Fit has adopted the checklist, and now throughout the Lower Mainland, we are doing checklists. So any units that we become aware that is wheelchair accessible, we document, does it have a roll-in shower? How wide are the doors? Looking at the kitchen, and does it have accessible counter heights? Does it have wheelchair parking out front? Does it have a door opener? Those kinds of things. And we're trying to be able, for now in the Lower Mainland, really be able to get an understanding of that housing stock. Because as you said, there's not much information out there about good information about what is accessible, and them being available. But also what's really neat is that we're reaching out to service providers and being able to try to support housing providers that very much want to make their places accessible. And the more that we can work together with housing providers and make those connections, the better. We have an amazing individual named Jackie who's been just going out there and meeting providers and doing these checklists, and it's pretty awesome. And Dalton, if you get a chance to meet with Dalton, he's our a project manager and navigator at Ifrc, and he works with the individuals to look at, what are you looking for in a home? What do you need, right? Do you need that roll-in shower? Do you have a family? Do you have pets? Do you smoke, right? And by knowing all of this information, when we speak with a service provider, we can immediately try to make those connections, because more and more housing providers have different eligibilities for their units, and like no pets, for example, and so, or different aspects. So we're able to work with those individuals, both the individual and the provider, and make a good match.
Yeah.
Oh, I should say one more thing too, Adam, and that is, we we would like to see more opportunity for rent supplements to be available for people with disabilities too, where that the dollars can be attached in the form of individualized funding, so that you could go shop around in the marketplace, not just places that are currently subsidized, right? But actually go out into the market. So anyways, love to talk more about this. As you can see, I could keep going on that one, Adam.
Wow. I actually had thought about another question, but let's do one in the chat first.
Okay.
What is the recommended wage that you pay your care workers?
Great question. And this is a difficult one to answer, because what I recommend and what people's abilities are to pay, it is the challenge here, right? Because there's some people that just are not able to pay what is completely the going rate. And the going rate for home support workers range anywhere now from $18 to $20 to $23, $24 an hour. If you're in that ballpark, you know, depending on experience. But there's many of us that are only able to pay minimum wage. And then there's those that are only able to pay a flat rate. So depending upon the number of hours that you receive for your home support, again, we can work through a budget to see what might be possible. If you get enough dollars through your home support, because you're somebody who requires more physical care in a 24 hours, there may be a way to do flat rates, right? And do live-in styles. And I want to let people know that live-in doesn't necessarily mean that someone has to live there. It can be done on a flat rate basis. So you pay somebody $200 or $250 per 24-hour shift. You know, again, that just depends if you've got enough funds to be able to do that. Some people need a night attendant where they need to be rolled over a number of times in the night. So there's a way to be able to pay a flat rate for overnight support. And again, you know, it's not always easy to find caregivers on a flat rate basis, but there's some amazing caregivers out there that that it just works really well for. So it's really about trying to work with the dollars you get and just really think it through. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I had to recently do a small assignment in thinking about survey questions for the built environment, because we're going to eventually host a forum on that. And you've brought up a whole bunch of topics that I didn't think about necessarily, because the built environment is such an expansive topic, and it does include affordable housing as well. So thank you for that. And I might email you for some ideas.
Wonderful, Adam. Love to talk with you more about it.
All right.
So Adam, is there anything else that you want to ask at this point, or are we going to wrap this up?
I think we will wrap it up. There aren't any comments on Facebook, although it looks like we reached about 25 people. So that was pretty good.
Really great.
And yeah, we'll wrap it up now.
Okay, well, let me end by just saying, you know, first of all, thank you for doing these, by the way. And what a great experience for me to go through this with you. And, you know, that to just, you know, to remind the people that have a chance to listen to this that, you know, please, if you just want to just explore the Cecil program or just talk about individualized funding, give us a call at 604-777-7576. And just let us know that you're looking to explore the idea. Don't feel pressured or anything. Let's just talk about it. I'd be happy to do that with you. So Adam, thanks for letting the best kept secret out of the bag. Thanks, Adam.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.